मैंने कहा, बाबा जान, खुदा न करे जो आप कमजोर हो। फिर आपने फरमाया, फातिमा, मुझे यमनी चादर लाकर उठा दो। मैं यमनी चादर ले आया और वो मैंने बाबा जान को उठा दी। मैं देख रही थी कि आपका चेहरा चौदहवीं रात के चांद की तरह चमक रहा है। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद। अभी एक साल दिन गुजरी थी कि मेरे बेटे हसन अलैहिस्सलाम आ गए और बोले, अम्मी जान, आप पर सलाम हो। मैंने जवाब दिया, मेरे बेटे, मेरी आंखें तारे, मेरे दिल के टुकड़े, तुम पर भी सलाम हो। फिर वो कहने लगे, अम्मी जान, मुझे घर में नाना जान की सी खुशबू आ रही है। मैंने कहा, हाँ, तुम्हारी नाना जान चादर ओढ़े हुई है। इस पर हसन अलैहिस्सलाम चादर की तरफ बढ़े और कहने लगे, सलाम हो आप पर नाना जान। ए खुदा के रसूल, क्या मुझे इजाजत है कि मैं आपके पास चादर में आ जाऊं? आपने जवाब दिया, मेरे बेटे, मेरे हौस के मालिक, तुम पर भी सलाम है, तुम्हें इजाजत है। बस हसन अलैहिस्सलाम आपके पास चादर में पहुंच गए। एक साथ नहीं गुजरी थी कि मेरे बेटे हुसैन अलैहिस्सलाम आ गए और कहने लगे, अम्मी जान, आप पर सलाम हो। मैंने जवाब दिया, मेरे बेटे, मेरी आंख के तारे, मेरे लखते जिगर, तुम पर भी सलाम हो। ये वो मुझे कहने लगे, अम्मी जान, मुझे घर में नाना जान की खुशबू आ रही है। मैंने कहा, हाँ, तुम्हारी नाना जान और भाई जान दोनों चादर के अंदर थे। इस पर हुसैन अलैहिस्सलाम चादर के करीब गए और बोले, नाना जान, ए खुदा की मुख्तार नबी, आप पर सलाम मुझे। क्या आपकी इजाजत है कि मैं भी आप दोनों के पास चादर में आ जाऊं? आपने जवाब दिया, तुम पर भी सलाम हो मेरे लाल, मेरी उम्मत के बख्शवाने वाले, तुम्हें इजाजत है। बस हुसैन अलैहिस्सलाम भी इन दोनों के पास चादर में पहुंच गए। इसके बाद अली इब्ने अबी तालिब अलैहिस्सलाम आ गए और बोले, रसूल की बेटी, तुम पर सलाम हो। मैंने जवाब दिया, अबुल हसन, ए मोमिनों के अमीर, आप पर भी सलाम हो। फिर वो कहने लगे, फातिमा, मुझे घर में अपने भाई और इब्ने अम्मी की खुशबू आ रही है। वो आपके दोनों बेटों समेत चादर के अंदर है। ये अली अलैहिस्सलाम चादर के करीब गए और बोले, ए खुदा के रसूल, आप पर सलाम हो। क्या मुझे इजाजत है कि मैं भी आपके पास चादर में आ जाऊं? बाबा जान ने उनसे फरमाया, तुम पर भी सलाम हो मेरे भाई, मेरे जानशीन, मेरे अलम बरदार, तुम्हें इजाजत है। बस अली अलैहिस्सलाम भी चादर में पहुंच गए। फिर मैं चादर के करीब गई और मैंने कहा, सलाम हो आप पर बाबा जान, ए खुदा के रसूल, क्या मैं भी आपके पास चादर में आ जाऊं? बाबा जान ने फरमाया, तुम पर भी सलाम हो मेरी बेटी, मेरे पारा जिगर, तुम्हें इजाजत है। चुनाचे मैं भी चादर में चली गई। अब जो चादर में इकट्ठे हो गए तो बाबा जान ने चादर के दोनों किनारे पकड़े और दाएं हाथ से आसमान की तरफ इशारा करते हुए फरमाया, ए खुदा, ये मेरे अहले बैत हैं, ये मेरे खास लोग और हामी हैं। इनका रहन मेरा रहन है और इनका खून मेरा खून है। जो इन्हें सताता है वो मुझे आजाद देता है, जो इन्हें रंजीदा करता है वो मुझे रंज पहुंचाता है। जो इनसे लड़ेगा मैं भी उससे लड़ूंगा, जो इनसे सुलह रखेगा मैं भी उससे सुलह रखूंगा, जो इनसे दुश्मनी करेगा मैं भी उसको दुश्मन समझूंगा, और जो इनसे दोस्ती रखेगा मैं भी उनको दोस्त जानूंगा, क्योंकि ये मुझसे हैं और मैं इनसे हूँ। ए खुदा, तू अपनी सलवार, बरकत, रहमत, बख्शिश और खुशनुदी मेरे और इनके लिए करार दे और इनसे नजात को दूर रख और इन्हें निहायत पाकीज़ा रख। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मोहम्मद मोहम्मद। फिर खुदा बुजुर्ग बरतर ने फरमाया, ए फरिश्तों, ए आसमान के रहने वालों, मैंने ये मजबूत आसमान, फैली हुई जमीन, रोशन चांद, चमकीला सूरज, घूमते सैयारे, ढलकता समंदर, तैरती कश्ती, ये सारी चीजें सिर्फ इन्हीं 5 अफराद की खातिर और इन्हीं की मोहब्बत में पैदा की हैं जो चादर के अंदर है। इस पर अमीन वही जिब्रील अलैहिस्सलाम ने पूछा, ए परवरदिगार, ये चादर के अंदर कौन लोग हैं? खुदावंद आलम ने फरमाया, ये नबी के अहले बैत और रिसालत का खजीना है। ये फातिमा, उनके बाबा, उनके शौहर और उनके 2 बेटे हैं। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मोहम्मद मोहम्मद। जिब्रील अलैहिस्सलाम ने अर्ज किया, ए परवरदिगार, मुझे भी इजाजत दे कि मैं जमीन पर उतरूं और इनमें शामिल होकर छठा फर्द बन जाऊं। खुदा ने फरमाया, तुम्हें इजाजत है। बस जिब्रील अमीन जमीन पर उतरे और कहने लगे, ए खुदा के रसूल, आप पर सलाम हो। खुदाए बुजुर्गों बरतर आपको सलाम कहता है, आपको जुनून और एहतराम से सरफराज फरमाता है और आपसे कहता है कि मेरी इज्जत और बुजुर्गी की कसम, मैंने ये मजबूत आसमान, फैली हुई जमीन, रोशन चांद, चमकीला सूरज, घूमते सैयारे, धड़कता समंदर, तैरती कश्ती, ये सारी चीजें सिर्फ तुम लोगों की खातिर और तुम्हारी ही मोहब्बत में पैदा की है। और खुदा ने मुझे इजाजत दे दी है कि मैं भी चादर के अंदर आपके पास आ जाऊं। ए खुदा के रसूल, क्या आप मुझे इजाजत देते हैं? रसूल खुदा सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने फरमाया, ए खुदा की वही लाने वाले, तुम पर सलाम हो। हाँ, तुम्हें भी इजाजत है। ये जिब्रील भी हम लोगों के साथ चादर में आ गए। इसके बाद जिब्रील ने मेरे बाबा जान से कहा, खुदा आप लोगों को वही भेजता है और कहता है, इन्नमा युरीदुल्लाहु लियुज़हिबा अन्कुम अर्रिज्सा अहलल बैति व युत्ताहिरकुम तत्हीरा। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद मोहम्मद। कि वाकई खुदा ने ये इरादा कर लिया है कि आप अहले बैत से नजात दूर रखें और आप लोगों को पाकीज़ा रखें। तब अली अलैहिस्सलाम ने बाबा जान से कहा, ए खुदा के रसूल, मुझे बताइए कि इस चादर के अंदर आ जाना खुदा के नजदीक क्या फजीलत रखता है? इस पर रसूल खुदा ने फरमाया, उस जात की कसम जिसने मुझे नबी बनाया और लोगों की निजात की खातिर मुझे रिसालत के लिए मुंतखब किया। अहले जमीन की जिस महफिल में हमारे शियाने अली और दोस्त इकट्ठे होंगे और हमारी ये हदीस बयान करेंगे, उन पर खुदा की रहमत नाजिल होगी। फरिश्ते उनको हल्के में ले लेंगे और जब तक वो लोग महफिल से रुखसत नहीं हो जाएंगे, उनके गुनाहों की बख्शिश के लिए दुआ करते रहेंगे। इस पर अली अलैहिस्सलाम ने कहा, खुदा की कसम, हम इस वक्त कामयाब हो गए। फिर रसूल खुदा ने फरमाया, ए अली, उस जात की कसम जिसने मुझे सच्चा नबी बनाया और लोगों की निजात की खातिर रिसालत के लिए मुंतखब किया। अहले जमीन की जिस महफिल में भी हमारी ये हदीस बयान की जाएगी कि जिसमें हमारे शियाने अली और दोस्त इकट्ठे होंगे, उस महफिल में जो कोई दुखी होगा, खुदा उसका दुख दूर करेगा। जो गमज़दा होगा, उस उसको गम से छुटकारा देगा और जो कोई हाजतमंद होगा, खुदा उसकी हाजत पूरी करेगा। फिर अली अलैहिस्सलाम ने फरमाया, खुदा, हमने इस वक्त कामयाबी और बरकत पाई और काबे के रब की कसम, इसी तरह हमारे शियाने अली भी कामयाब हुए और दुनिया और आखिरत में खुश नसीब ठहरे। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मदिन व आले मुहम्मद। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मदिन व आले मुहम्मद।
बाबा से बुलंद सलावत।
अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद।
बेकसी का शहर की चर्चा रह गया। बेकसी का शहर की चर्चा रह गया। मुजरई मेहमान प्यासा रह गया। मुजरई मेहमान प्यासा रह गया। सब हुए सैरा तुझसे खुदा। सब हुए सैरा तुझसे खुदा। काफिला यस्रिब का प्यासा रह गया। जख्म खाते ही जो अकबर गिर पड़े। जख्म खाते ही जो अकबर गिर पड़े। छिद के बंशी में कलेजा दोहर तक तब पहुंची खुल्द में। साहिबे लश्कर अकेला रह गया। तीर गर्दन पर जो खाया धूप में, तीर गर्दन पर जो खाया धूप में, अरे भर के ठंडी सांस बच्चा रह गया। अरे भर के ठंडी सांस बच्चा रह गया। इस कदर था खुश्क हजरत का गला, इस कदर था खुश्क हजरत का गला, खंजरे कातिल भी प्यासा रह गया। इस कदर था खुश्क हजरत का गला, खंजरे कातिल भी प्यासा रह गया। एक सी का शहर की चर्चा रह गया। नारे सलावत।
औज़ु बिल्लाहि समील मिनश शैतानिर रजीम। औज़ु बिल्लाहि समील मिनश शैतानिर रजीम। बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम। इन्नमा वलियुकुमुल्लाहु व रसूलुहु वल्लज़ीना आमनु वल्लज़ीना युक़ीमूनस सलात व यूतूनज़ ज़कात व हुम राकिऊन। सदक़ल्लाहुल अज़ीम। सलावत। Surah Ma'idah, verse number 55, the verse that I just read, is one of those direct references to Imam al-Muttaqeen, Hazrat Ali al-Muhtasab. So, and it is a narration of a moment in a life which we have taken as our theme, living beautifully, the path of the Ahl Bayt. There is much to be said about a beautiful life and a beautiful way of living. And some of our observations every day in the upcoming days will also be to reflect on the necessity of beauty itself. For now, an extremely brief reflection, and that will be our entry point to the theme for today. The opposite of beauty, is not ugliness, that is lack of beauty. The opposite of beauty is utility. The opposite of beauty is utility. If something is entirely utilitarian, consider if you subtract beauty from daily living, consider if that life would be worth living. Think about it for a moment. Every object that we use in daily life, utilitarian use, every object that we use has in it a design. That design is an addition to its function. The function can be served if you subtract the beauty from that object. But then that is the question, would it be a human life if utility was all that mattered? Think for a moment. Yesterday, we had occasion to mention the meaning, a short statement from the Prophet's own description of his life was sabro ridai, or sabr mera libas. And we had occasion to reflect on the three dynamics of clothing. One of them was zinat, beauty. Exactly. Every object that we use, beginning with clothing, that is the utilitarian purpose would be served even if you subtracted the beauty from it. But then there lies the question, would it be a human life? Would it be something worthy of our attention? And you and I would immediately agree with philosophers from the beginning. Plato. There are three purposes of life: the good, the truth, the beautiful. The true, the good, the beautiful. And those then are the three purposes for which we have dedicated living beautifully. We are exploring, to the degree we are able, the most beautiful lives, and from there we are learning something interesting. Just one more thought about beauty. All beautiful things are a mark of appreciation, aesthetics. The branch of philosophy that looks at beauty is aesthetics. What is it that makes things beautiful? And many answers have been given. And one thinker whom I admire a lot has said this, that actually beauty is the good that we desire for ourselves. When I see something good, it is something I wish to partake of. It is something I wish to possess. Yes, it is also true that there are many beautiful things that I know I can't possess. I wish them well. They still remain beautiful, even though I can't have them. So therefore, a beautiful sunset is something I want to watch and enjoy in that kind of detachment. It is not something which I can have, but it is something which I can aesthetically, with pleasure, enjoy as a person, as a human being. And that brings me to the third there is that which I wish to possess. There is that which I can enjoy with detachment. And there is that which I wish to share. Beauty is increased when I share it with a person I care about. Isn't that what it is? When we see something extremely beautiful that we call members of our family and say, Jaldi, jaldi, ye dekho to, look how beautiful it is. Beauty is increased, our appreciation is increased with a human sharing. There, that is what we are doing, living beautifully. The path of the Ahl-e-Bayt. What is it that the Ahl-e-Bayt most wanted? But to share a pattern of living that was beautiful and then to make it available to all. The pattern of our talks, those who have been with us before, a quick recap. We have looked at the noblest life, the life to which this entire effort is dedicated, the life of the Holy Prophet. We looked at one aspect, a very important aspect of his life from the outside, as described by his companions, his loved ones, his family, the way they saw him. And in that process, we did not go for historical moments. We looked at his daily conduct, his daily behavior, the way he was every day throughout his life. And in that, we saw a miracle. That was day one. On the second day, yesterday, we had the great honor and privilege of reflecting upon his noble life as described by himself. We have this rare conversation. Imam al-Muttaqeen, Hazrat Ali al-Murtaza, asked the Prophet once, what is your day of life? What is your way of life? And he replied with a short sermon with 17 phrases. We had an opportunity to go over them extremely fast. I understand a reflection given to me yesterday by one of you was, Abbas Sahab, that was so good that we could have spent an entire session on just each one of them, and that is true. That is true. Mohtarma Shaista Zaidi Sahiba, I have enormous regard for, said in one conversation, कि ये हदीस शरीफ मेरी नजर से गुजरी है और बहुत दफा मैंने चाहा कि मैं लोगों को समझाऊं, लेकिन इब्तिदाई 4 के बाद वो मेरा वक्त ही पूरा हो गया. And that is so true because it is so rich and thick. But mashallah, you are super learners, so I did all 17 of them in a little over 36 minutes. That was the view from the inside. The noble life lived beautifully, described by the man himself. So, today, as I have pledged, we will look at Hazrat Ali al-Murtaza's life as seen from the outside. The inside-outside metaphor is a nice handle to be able to tell other people what are these talks all about. I mean, you can easily say, oh, you know, inside, outside. Very simple. Today, we will take a look at an admirer of Imam Ali, somebody of our times, whose praise of Imam Ali's life is amazing because of a distance in time and space. The gentleman who wrote the book is not a Muslim, is not a, inverted commas, Shia, is not someone who has enormous admiration as a matter of faith. He is a Christian. He is from Lebanon. He was born in 1931. He died on the 5th of November 2014. That's like our time. Like, okay, before the pandemic. Everything now or before the pandemic. He was someone who had seen history and recognized, read for and against. He was a journalist and a poet. And at the age of 13, he found the enormous treasures of the Nahjul Balagha. He was an Arab. Was in a historical sense, is. And he decided to spend his life. He wrote a whole lot of books, plays, poems, known in the Arab journalistic world. And he then did this incredible volume, The Voice of Human Justice, the life of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. The man is George Jordak. And I'll be benefiting from some insights from this book. It's an easily available PDF download. Just type George Jordak, Google, you know. Yeah, okay. However, nothing beats actually reading the book, but that's. Don't worry, I just brought it to show it to you. Salam. The name of the book in Arabic is Sawtul Adaliya, Sawtul Insaniyal Adaliya, the voice of human justice. In the Arabic book is in several volumes. The one dedicated to Imam Ali is this one, is the English translation of that one. Gone through many editions, etc., the bibliographical details. He offered, it's a rich book and a thick book, but I have chosen 3 aspects that an admirer of the Imam found in Imam Ali and for our understanding today. Tomorrow, we will take a look at the Imam describing his own life, similar to the way we did the Prophet. So perhaps one way of seeing it is, one way of capturing today's talk in a metaphor is seeing Ali ibn Abi Talib today. Tomorrow, inshallah, being Ali ibn Abi Talib. So today would be seeing him. What did this man in time and space, after so many centuries, living in a different world, a different time, what is it that he found so remarkable and so valuable, so admirable in his life? I will, from the look of the book, I've chosen 3 key words. The words are justice, freedom, and poverty, or rather the ending of poverty, the alleviation. Freedom. The Imam's relentless understanding of human freedom. One might say it cost him his life. These are the observations of George Jordak from, it is said that he had almost memorized the entire Nahjul Balagha. He just had it by heart. At the age of 15, his elder brother, so the biography tells us, encouraged him to read the sayings of Imam Ali. And as we know, Nahjul Balagha and the sayings of Imam Ali are some of the tersest, and they're like linguistic gems. And when this George Jordak decided to get into Arabic rhetoric and language, his brother encouraged him to memorize, and he did. So the book is sprinkled with the exact quotations in order to make his admiration. Now, one of the things which I would also like to put out is freedom, justice, and the alleviation of poverty, these 3 themes that I've chosen. Let us not forget that George was able to read French. He was very much aware of the French Enlightenment thinkers. He knew philosophy. And therefore, his admiration for Imam Ali's philosophical greatness is that as modern French philosophers are saying things, he was able to say another man had said these things 1300 years ago. There's a fine moment he quotes from a Muslim speaker speaking to a French education minister about some stand that he had taken regarding freedom. And he said, but we've had Imam Ali say these things before. We are one up on you. And the French minister said, that may be so, but then we are one up on you because we've actually practiced it, and you, knowing it for 1300 years, have not been able to put it to practice. Now that is a good punch. So. Truly, Imam Ali's dedication to human freedom was a strange thing. He believed it as an individual human right, not a right that needed to be granted by anyone, but a right that belonged to human being by virtue of existence. आपका ये एक line of thought है, एक अंदाज है कि हर इंसान आजाद है इसलिए कि वो इंसान की हैसियत से वजूद है. By the fact that he lives as a human being, freedom is his right. And as I said just now, it was very strange. On the day when people are swearing allegiance to him as a caliph, big day of history immediately, the day when reluctantly he agrees and he says, okay. Saad, son of Abi Waqqas, refuses to take that oath of allegiance. Abdullah ibn Umar refuses to take the oath of allegiance. But Imam Ali believes in freedom and he says, oh yes, no issue. No issue. He says, I shall accept the oath of allegiance from one who takes it voluntarily and shall ignore one who declines to take it. No imposition, no force. And that is true. In later years, he actually saw his own soldiers take sides. No vengeful action against them. They are free to go. He knows that if they change sides, he will lose. But that is not the reason, or that is not the price of the victory that he wants. He doesn't want anyone to do what his own conscience doesn't allow him to do. ये जो ज़मीर की आज़ादी की बातें करने वाले को अगर अमलन देखना हो, here during his caliphate he tried his best, and as I said, it almost cost him his life. For this man, his immediate companions would say, but sir, this person such and such has is using vilifying language against you. He says, yeah, there's nothing against language. Only when he actually hurts anyone will I do something under the law. Until then, I will not touch it. His respect for human dignity, his respect for human freedom is therefore a matter of record. I don't want to say it is unmatched or whatever. It just is a matter of record. And the record such that it has been admired by a Christian Lebanese writer so many centuries later, looking at the records of all kings, monarchs, presidents, prime ministers of the countries of the world. Freedom. So. The second major thing that George Jordac finds amazing in the Imam, and his language is so full of adjectives, like so full of approbation that there are entire pages that one says, yeah, we know that you admire the man. Like, can you please move on? that kind of is a poet. The second major thing is justice, and something which was new to me And yes, despite my reading, I do come upon new things. Here is an aspect of the Imam's legislature during his caliphate that I was not aware of. And to me, it came as a surprise. And it comes under justice, and it comes under agriculture. It comes under land. It comes under the legislation that the Imam provided. The Imam is on record that he believed that the land belongs to the one who tills it. Now, consider the revolutionary implications of this. The land belongs to the person who tills it, not just the fruit of the land. The fruit of the land then can be sold, kept, bartered, whatever. But the land belongs to the one who tills it. Consider the revolutionary implications at a time when today we live in a world where the land belongs to the state. And before modern states, the land belonged to the monarch, the king. And the produce of the land was taken by the king and given as much as he wanted to those who tilled it. And otherwise, so for Imam Ali, this was exploitation. This was unjust. And so therefore, the Imam's agricultural reforms and his beliefs about the ownership of the land was directly connected to his deep sense of justice. He believed that the man who tills the land and also considers it as his own is going to work on it much better than a man who does it only for rent or only for his livestock or for his own living, and the rest belongs to the person who actually owns it, or the king, or whatever state system has taken. Agriculture and land and ownership, these are deep issues. I had not come upon this as an aspect. And George Jordak makes an amazing point, historically speaking. He says, what do you think the opposition of the Banu Umayyah was? Do you think they were worried about his caliphate? And do you think they were worried about the Islam and the issues of the Quran and all that? They were not. They were worried about these radical reforms, which would be a huge blow to their luxurious lifestyles, to the ways of exploitation that they had created, to the classes of the haves and the have-nots that they had in society and wanted to perpetuate, and which the Imam would have eventually abolished had he lived so long. The Imam is on record. He said, beware, don't appropriate to yourselves the things in which all have equal rights. This actually is an echo of the Prophet's observation and legislation. The Prophet said that water, vegetation that has not been tilled by anyone, what we call commoners, and fire belong to all mankind. Water, vegetation, and fire. Fire, yeah, sounds strange when we put it as fire. But from there we mean the source of fire. So if any person has, or a group of people have, a fire, and if it is needed by other people for a human use, for cooking or warmth, then that fire will, because it is so true. Whoever lights kindling with some fire does not lose any of his fire, but adds it on to. So in that sense, it's the generosity of nature replicated in the generosity of humanity. And in that, Mullah Ali says, beware, do not appropriate to yourselves the things in which all have equal rights. And the Imam added one more thing to which he believed everyone had equal rights. It's an abstract thing. आज की जरा गुफ्तगू खासी heavy हो रही है. In a moment, you'll be with me. The Imam added law. Law as a human good. Law as a social good. Law is something to which all of us voluntarily accept. It is a yoke that we all voluntarily put upon ourselves for harmonious living in society. The Imam defined law as a social good. Once again, a radical idea that just comes as an enormous surprise. So it isn't just the tangible things in which everyone has rights and the exploitation of labor for which the Imam is talking, but he is taking law, the rules and the rule of law. If you were to talk to me about collapse of Pakistan society around us, I think the simplest would be the collapse of the rule of law. And the rule of law is not other people's laws that I am supposed to obey, but the laws that I have consented myself. यानी ये हमारे मुल्क का एक अजीब मसला है ना, हमारी सोसाइटी का अजीब मसला कि अगर हम सब ने ये अग्री किया है कि इस सड़क पर वन वे होगी क्योंकि इसमें ये सहूलत है, and we have agreed, all the people who live on that street and all the people otherwise, we agreed that that's a one way. And if today by some arrogance and entitlement I insist on going the wrong way on it, it isn't an imposition that I'm fighting. It is my own willfulness and impulse that I'm using. And that is what the Imam is turning as the law as a social good, a yoke which we take upon ourselves in order for improved, harmonious living for everyone. That is what he was talking about. Salam. The third idea is something I would, let's see, I hope I'm able to share it. To do that, I think it is appropriate that I conclude the story of the revelation of Surah Ma'idah, verse 55. This is the Quranic presence of Imam Ali, accepted by every school of thought. The occasion is simple. The translation of the verse is simple. Allah is the guardian of those who believe. Allah and His Messenger are the guardians and those who believe. They are those who are steadfast in prayer and give the zakat in a state of ruku. This is it. And give the zakat, and they are also amongst the raka'in, those who are in ruku. The translation is delicious. Those who give zakat and they are also in ruku. One reading. Those who bow down before God. Abdullah Yusuf Ali tells us. The moment is interesting. Imam Ali is offering prayers. A needy person enters the mosque. Let us be very clear. The way the incident goes is very simple. It couldn't have been imamat prayers or first prayer. It must have been nafil prayers. The Imam bends down in ruku as he does in namaz. But the person who was in need and who was standing by, the Imam shoots out his hand. And the person sees the ring, he takes it and moves on. The person who gave the zakat during ruku, only one instance of it is there in Muslim history, past or present. No one before or since has been able to do it. This is the presence of the Imam in the Quran, amongst other verses. Chapter 5, verse 55. Remember this number. Yeah, I was thinking on it कि वो 110 आपका number है और 55 उसका exact आता है. A good way to do it. Salam. यानी इमाम ज़कात दे सकते थे, सदका दे सकते थे नमाज के बाद भी, यानी वो रुकू और सुजूद हो जाता, आप सलाम फेर लेते और फिर दे सकते थे. It is true, and we know we did. What special thing was communicated by this? Now, even as we live in the modern world where there is a lot of questions, people say, and say it correctly, rightly, sir, ये जरा वाकई में मसला. How is it? ये कैसे हो सकता है? ये कैसे हो सकता है कि इमाम की तवज्जो नमाज में इतनी सॉलिड अल्लाह सुब्हानहू व तआला पर हो और उन्हें अचानक ये भी पता चल जाए कि कोई शख्स है जो भीख मांग रहा है, और वो ये कि वो यहाँ खड़ा हुआ है, और वो ये कि आप अपना हाथ कर दें और अगला वो समझ जाए और अंगूठी उठा के लेके चल दे. यानी ये तो कोई तवज्जो की बात ना हुई, और अगर तवज्जो की हुई तो आपको पता था, तो कुछ अल्लाह ताला की तवज्जो के अंदर में थोड़ी सी एक हरकत तो आ गई. दैट्स अ वेरी फेयर क्वेश्चन, because at the same time of the Imam's attention and the quality of attention, we also read that once in a war, he was hurt with an arrow on his foot and it was bleeding. And immediately the people around him said, "Abhi nahi, aapko namaz mein khade hone do, we will take it out." And they did. Now, if that is the level of the Imam's attention, that an arrow in his foot can be taken out and he is able to let them take it out, how do we understand him knowing about the beggar asking for? How do we reconcile these two moments? Because they seem to be opposite. Are you with me on this? Have I confused you completely? Salawat. No, there is no contradiction. No. The masters, my teachers, have explained this. I didn't know this. I asked this question. And my teachers explained it beautifully. They said, "Beta, Imam Ali Muqam ka total तवज्जो परवरदिगार की तरफ है. परवरदिगार तो यह अलीम है ना. अल्लाह सुब्हानहू तआला तो हर चीज जानते हैं. तो जब यकसुई का ये आलम हो और आपके कल्ब के ऊपर अल्लाह सुब्हानहू तआला की तरफ से इल्का हो जाए कि इस वक्त ये है, तो मस्जिद में आए हुए भिखारी का क्या कहना? अगर गहरे समंदर में किसी मछली को भी खुराक देना होता तो इमाम अली मुकाम मुसीबत देते. सुभान अल्लाह. सलावत. Are you with me on this? Yani, issue is that when the Imam's attention is totally ego-free, when he is totally with God, when he is totally dedicated, then the entire knowledge of the universe is in him. Or so therefore, to argue that how did he know is an irrelevance. He was alert to the moment, and in that totality of the moment was the totality of his knowledge, and in the totality of his knowledge was the giving of the zakat in a state of salawat. My third theme is poverty, and that is the moment. इतनी देर भी बर्दाश्त न थी ना कि एक फकीर तकलीफ में रहे, यानी एक एज अ मेटाफोर. इमाम अली मुकाम का एक मास्टरपीस प्रोज राइट अप है, टेक्स्ट है, द लेटर टू मालिक अश्तर. Everyone knows about it. It has been called a rich treasure, and all you need to do in order to have a good text of it, many translations, alislam.org, Malik Ashtar, click there. But that is the point. The Imam has in that letter given us an entire spectrum of governance. It is truly hard reading. एक पिछली मुहर्रम की साइकिल में हमने मालिक अश्तर के खत को पैराग्राफ बाय पैराग्राफ एक ओवरव्यू दिया हुआ था. अभी वो मौका. But let's take something interesting जो इस वाली बात तक मैं अगर आप तक पहुंचा सका है. Malik Ashtar के उस खत में Imam has given him powerful guidance. Malik, you are going to Egypt. Egypt is a well-off place. People have been rulers before you. And there are all these classes of people. So the Imam gives him advice on how to deal with every level. Look carefully at the people you appoint as judges. Take care of them. Look at which class they belong to, etc. Look carefully at your military, at your army. Remember, the commanders are used to very rough travels. Deal with them gently. Soldiers, people in the army. Look carefully at your artisans and merchants. They don't want too much interference. Let them go on and make products which are of use to Muslim society, but take care if they are guilty of hoarding or cheating. Just restrain them, but don't punish them too harshly, because they are otherwise uncouth and coarse people. They will say things in a brusque way, in a rude way. They don't mean to be rude. The Imam's analysis of each category of persons and psychology is worth reading. I would invite my youngsters, young friends, take a look at it, take out time, read it. वैसे भी कल इतवार एक और काम करें. So just an idea. Anyway, then now here is a twist in the language that had it not been for one of my teachers pointing it out, I would have missed it. And indeed, it is absent in all English translations, except the one that I'm referring to. This is, so after mentioning the judiciary, the soldiers, the artisans, the middle class, after mentioning all of that, the Imam comes to a group of people about whom he says they need the most justice. The people who need the most justice. But before he mentions them, before he mentions that category, he says, Allah, Allah. Twice. That's the way it is written. Now, all translations that I have seen, other than the one that I will be quoting in a moment, all of them have said things like, beware, fear Allah for the poor. What the Imam is saying is, Allah, Allah, the poor, the lowest, the destitute, the helpless. Those who are unable to help themselves, but those who out of dignity do not beg, Malik, look after them, for they need your services most of all. They need the services of the state most of all. They know that society looks down upon them. They know that their poverty makes them bereft of hope. Such are the people for whom, Malik, you will find it extremely difficult. You will find it extremely difficult. So appoint officers who can look after their needs and tell you what they need. Malik, it is possible that if you look after them, the destitute, the blind, the lame, those who are helpless, the elderly, Malik, if you look after them, it is possible that on the day of judgment, you will stand tall because they will recommend you on a day when you will need recommendation. Subhanallah. Salam. The translation I'm referring to is by Raza Shah Kazmi. Raza Shah Kazmi Sahab is a student, is a Sufi scholar, and he's done excellent work. His one volume on justice and remembrance, introducing the spirituality of Imam Ali, is a classic. It's available everywhere. I urge you to get it. I had the honor of meeting Raza Shah Kazmi Sahab when he visited Karachi. He has done another single volume, small volume, Imam Ali, Concise History, Timeless Mystery, where he has shown why is it that the Imam is so controversial when at the same time with the Prophet he is so noble and so great. How is it? These are, so he's anyway. So Raza Shah Kazmi Sahab has done a translation of Malik-e-Ashtar's letter in the second book, in the first book I mentioned, Justice and Remembrance. And that is where he points out the enormous pain in those two utterances of Allah. Allah. ऐसा लगता है कि इमाम अली मुकाम का जो दिल गरीब, नादार, परेशान, बुढ़ापे से, बीमारी से, माजूरी से, जो लोग हैं जो अपनी मदद के लिए पुकार नहीं सकते हैं, जिनकी कोई आवाज नहीं, उनके लिए मौला का दिल इस दर्जे नरमी से है कि जैसे अल्लाह सुब्हानहू तआला का इस्म जो है उनके दिल से एक पुकार की तरह निकल रहा है कि मालिक-ए-अश्तर के खत में एक और दो दफा अल्लाह अल्लाह मालिक गरीब गरीब. Something lost in translation, as many as I have seen, unless a great scholar points it out and says, take a look. ये जो गदास है, ये इमाम अली मुकाम का है, seen from the outside. I hope you're now able to see the alleviation of poverty, how important that was. Salam. George Jordan tells us that the Imam himself chose poverty. But he wanted everyone else to have the means of living so that they could enjoy the freedom and the justice that he wanted. Ye kamal. This is an entire subject in itself, but I mean quickly again. We know that in Nahjul Balagha, whoever reads anything beyond the first like 15 pages, because I have never met anybody who has read beyond the first 15. Anyway, if you read okay, never mind reading. If you listen to loads of scholars quote the Imam, you would find that the Imam has his way of life, his standard of living, his food, his choice of extreme simplicity in clothing, in bearing, in food, in choices. The Imam manages to have very, very little. And yet, when one of his companions, in order to earn brownie points from the Imam, started vilifying the world and said, "Arey, here is the Imam himself having said on being on record कि ये दुनिया तो एक बकरी की छींक की मानिंद है, उसकी तो इतनी वक़्त है." Another place he uses extremely gross metaphor. Iftikhar Arif Sahab has done a whole poem on it. ये दुनिया एक सुअर की हड्डी की मानिंद है जो किसी कोढ़ी ने अपने हाथ में पकड़ा. Can't imagine a greater disgust than this image. Swine being haram, swine flesh being haram, the bone of the pig being disgusting, because that's when the flesh too has been eaten away. So you can imagine that which is left over in the hand of a leper. And anything in the hand of a leper is not something you would want. So something haram, something disgusting, something smelly in the hand of You can imagine the distance that the Imam is putting. These are the sentences by himself, and yet, when somebody in his presence started using similar kinds of words, the Imam caught him and called out to him and said, "Hey, just a moment, just a moment. What the heck? Why are you saying all this nonsense about the world? कि ये दुनिया इतनी बुरी है और ये just a moment." And this person, being surprised, he thought he was going to get a pat on the back from the Imam. But the Imam knows the level of the heart, and he knows the distance of the tongue, and he knows what he's doing. So he catches him right there. And he said, but sir, you yourself have chosen such a simple life for yourself. I'm only talking about, he says, woe upon you, you are not like me. दिल में तो तुम्हें हर चीज चाहिए, इधर मुझे खुश करने के लिए दुनिया की बुराई कर रहे हो. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. No, he says, I'm not extolling poverty. मैं ये बेबसी की फकीरी की तारीफ नहीं कर रहा. No, I want you to be comfortable. I want you to be able to have the wherewithals that you want and to enjoy them. No, I don't want you to exploit anyone. No, I don't want you to waste. These are simple things. But that doesn't mean that I want an all-out poverty in the place. So then he asked, but Mullah, why have you chosen it for yourself? He says, so that the poorest person in my caliphate is able to say, if I don't have more, neither does Ali ibn Abi Talib. That is the reason. Salam. So Imam, seen from the outside, ये अजीम हस्ती ने एक revolution लाना चाहा. George Jordan कहते हैं कि some person on a television interview asked him, no, we don't quite agree that Imam Ali did was as great as you make out, because he didn't quite achieve the things. And George Jordan says, really? Okay, let's play the game if in history. Let's play the game if in history, if X had happened, or if X had not happened. If he says, suppose the rascal who was sent to kill him had failed. Now, we know the history. Shaista Sahib says something marvelous. 3 खारजी निकले 3 लोगों को कत्ल करने. तो एक तो मस्जिद में आया ही नहीं, दूसरे को मारा तो जख्म से बच गया. No need for names, look it up. और तीसरा शहीद. यानी at the one point in Islamic history when the third man, Imam Ali himself, who shouldn't have been killed and who should have lived, was the one who succumbed to his wounds. She paused for a moment and said, शायद परवरदिगार इसी तरह क़यामत लाए कि कुछ अच्छे लोग दुनिया में नहीं भी. Amazing. Salawat. So George Jordan says, just a moment. Suppose the man who had been sent to kill Imam Ali had failed, and suppose the Imam had lived another 10 years, and suppose the Imam had implemented the agricultural reforms that I mentioned, and had implemented the freedom and the justice that he wanted, and had been able to put aside the Umayyads and the others who put aside. Would you have said the same thing which you are saying now? A remarkable question. No, history did not give him that opportunity, and the way of the world, let's not worry too much about ifs of history. But George Jordan gave a brilliant answer. The 3 things which he admired most, he said, is because when people have the raw materials, the wherewithal to live, they will enjoy the freedom. They will enjoy the justice. They will then have a harmonious relationship in society. Then they will flourish. Prosperity allows people to flourish, and the Imam wished nothing more than to have everyone flourish. Salam. And this brings this part of the conversation to a close. And I turn in remembrance to three men. These, yesterday in passing, I made this remark that Karbala is like a metaphor of a life, and every age group is present there. So when we are young, we identify with the children. When we grow older, we identify with that parallel age group. So, in that sense, Karbala offers the entire spectrum as something more to think about. I'm going to refer to three people. One of them is a childhood friend. One of them is someone whom the Imam met for the first time, a newcomer to the Imam's life. And the third man, for that we will conclude with Allama Rashid Turabi's closing remarks. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala से दुआ गो हैं कि हमें आप सबको करबला की ज़ियारत नसीब करें। आमीन। रोज़ाए इमाम हुसैन के मुतफरिक दरवाजे, वो लोग जो करबला गए हैं वो जानते हैं कि बनु असद का कबीला फ्रॉम दैट टाइम आज तक एक कमेमोरेशन में बहुत सारी रसूमात करते हैं। यौम आशूर को, 11वीं को, स्वयं के दिन मुतफरिक बनु असद, ये कबीला उस दिन भी, इनके आबा व अजदाद दैट इज, उस दिन भी मौजूद थे जब इमाम अली मुकाम ने करबला के अंदर में। इसीलिए मौला के बचपन के देरीना दोस्त हबीब इब्ने मज़ाहिर, 75 years old, आपके दोस्त, आपके बचपन के, वो असदी थे। He belonged to the clan of the tribe that was near. They wanted to come to help Imam Hussain, but were stopped by the armies of Umar Saad. Another story. लेकिन जब आप करबला मोहल्ला में तशरीफ ले जाएं, जब आप रोज़ाए इमाम के अंदर में कदम रखें, जब आप मेन दरवाजे से दाखिल हो, पहले राइट साइड पर आपको एक अलग सेपरेट स्पेस में एक मज़ार नजर आएगा। यही हबीब इब्ने मज़ाहिर का मज़ार, ये असद खानदान वालों का था। उन्होंने अदब में इमाम हुसैन अलैहिस्सलाम से कदमों से कुछ 100 फीट दूर के, ठीक है शहादत का रुतबा है, ठीक है आपके असहाब में से हैं, लेकिन साथ नहीं। तो हबीब इब्ने मज़ाहिर को अब असदी कबीले वालों ने ऑफ दैट टाइम अलहदा एक जगह पे रखा। हबीब इब्ने मज़ाहिर मौला के यारों में से एक इशारा से आपने खत लिख के उनको बुलाया। ये सोचने की बात है कि सामने की साइड पे तो हजारों लोग फोर्सेस हॉर्सेस आ रहे हैं, और मौला की तरफ से वो एक शख्स जो बुलाने पर आया वो 75 साल एक ज़ईफ शख्स था, लेकिन जो मोहब्बत में चला आया। तो मौला को पता है ना कि किन लोगों ने क्या काम करना। हबीब इब्न मज़ाहिर की अज़मत अपनी जगह, ज़ुहैर कैन is to my mind another kind of interesting study, character study. ज़ुहैर कैन को कोई खास इंटरेस्ट नहीं था इमाम हुसैन। हज के बाद वो वहां से निकला और उनका खानदान और सब लोग अलग अलग थे, तो इमाम हुसैन का काफला और उसका काफला कुछ आगे पीछे, और एक अवॉइडेंस गेम नहीं होती जिसमें मिलना ना पड़े, उस नियत से ज़ुहैर कैन इज मैनेजिंग। एक्सेप्ट दैट एक जगह ऐसी आई जिसमें कि इमाम की रुकावट और खेमे का रुकना और ज़ुहैर कैन का पास ही, बस इमाम की नजर, आपने पैगाम भिजवाया कि ये लोग जो यहाँ हैं इनके साहब से कहो कि मैं मिलना चाहता हूँ। वो लोग सब खेमे में बैठे, ज़ुहैर कैन, उसकी बीवी, उसके गुलाम, उसका बेटा, घर वाले तमाम खाना खा रहे कि एक इमाम का कासिद आया और कहा कि आपको इमाम हुसैन इब्न अली ने याद किया है, आपको बुलाया है, जो भी अल्फाज। वो खाना तो रुक गया उनका फौरन, और ज़ुहैर कैन की बेगम ने कहा, ज़ुहैर, नवासाए रसूल ने आपको बुलाया है और आप सोच में पड़ गए हैं कि जाऊं कि ना जाऊं। बस उसने वही रखा, वो उठ के गया। शाइस्ता साहबा खूबसूरत बात कहती कि हमारे पास इमाम अली मुकाम की और ज़ुहैर कैन की गुफ्तगू का तो कुछ पता नहीं, वी डोंट हैव एनी रिकॉर्ड ऑफ दैट, बट वी डू नो दिस, उस कॉन्वर्सेशन से जब ज़ुहैर कैन बाहर निकलते हैं तो मुस्कुरा रहे हैं, खुश हैं, ही इज अ हैप्पी मैन, और घर वालों को ऐलान करते हैं कि मैं इमाम अली मुकाम के साथ जा रहे, अपनी बेगम से कहते हैं मैंने आपको तलाक, क्योंकि अब मैं वापस नहीं आऊंगा, अब ये रास्ता इज वन वे। अपने बेटे से कहा, बेटा माँ का ख्याल रखना। गुलाम से कहा, एक गुलाम ने कहा, नहीं सर मैं तो आपके साथ हूँ। ओके, आपने खैर बात का, यानी चंद जुमलों में एक शख्स जो इमाम को अवॉइड करता था, इमाम के साथ अपनी आखिरी और अबदी जिंदगी, अपनी कुर्बानी, अपनी शहादत के लिए तैयार हो गया। कोई बात होगी ना इमाम की प्रेजेंस में, कोई बात होगी उस कॉन्वर्सेशन। सलाम सलाम। तो एक बचपन का दोस्त जो 75 साल का था और वहां से खत बुलाने पर आया, और एक गुफ्तगू में, एक मुलाकात के अंदर में कन्विंस हो गया व्हाट। और आज की तीसरी हस्ती जिसको हम याद करेंगे, इसके लिए आई विल बेनिफिट फ्रॉम अल्लामा रशीद। The gentleman's name is Abdullah ibn Jafar. He is the son of Jafar al-Tayyar, who is also known as Jafar ibn Abi Talib. एक हिस्टोरिकल खुंटी पस्यू डालते हैं, Jafar al-Tayyar, Jafar ibn Abi Talib was one of the first group of people, second in the sequence, of those who migrated to Ethiopia, and those who spoke in the court of Najashi, the king of Ethiopia, about Islam, and therefore lived there for 12 years. Later, his son Abdullah ibn Jafar married Sayyida Zainab. So therefore, the link in the family works along these lines. Okay. अब्दुल्ला इब्न जाफर ने हुसैन को रुखसत किया और मदीने आ गए। काफिला लुटकर मदीने जब वापस आया, अब्दुल्ला को रोज ये फिक्र रहती कि ज़ैनब अपने घर नहीं आती। ज़ैनब यही कहती हैं कि मेरा घर तो उजड़ गया, अब मैं घर आकर क्या करूं। एक दिन सैयद साजिदीन ने कुर्सी पर तशरीफ फरमा थे, सब उठ गए, अब्दुल्ला बैठे रहे। इमाम ने पूछा कुछ कहना है? कहा हाँ, आपकी फूफी अपने घर नहीं आएंगी। सैयद साजिदीन ने कहा, ने जाकर फूफी से कहा कुछ देर के लिए अपने घर चली जाएं। जनाब ज़ैनब इमाम के कहने पर अपने घर गईं और जाकर एक गोशे में बैठ गई। याद रखिए ये रिवायत मक्तल में नहीं है, बल्कि ये रिवायत तारीख की किताब में पेश की जा रही है। ये रिवायत तबकात इब्न साद में है और तबकात इब्न साद में चंद वाक़यात करबला के मुतालिक हैं, जिनमें से एक वाक़या ये भी है। अब्दुल्ला इब्न जाफर घर आए और एक मर्तबा शहजादी को देखा, बेख्तियार कहा आपकी तो शक्ल भी नहीं पहचानी जाती। शहजादी ने रोकर कहा, अब्दुल्ला क्या पहचानोगे उसको जिसका घर उजड़ गया। अब्दुल्ला बैठ गए, खामोश थे। शहजादी ने पूछा तुमको कुछ कहना है, तुमको कुछ पूछना है? अब्दुल्ला ने कहा हाँ। शहजादी ने कहा ओनो मोहम्मद के बारे में पूछना है। अब्दुल्ला ने अपने मुंह पर तमाचे मारे और कहा गुलामों का क्या तस्कर, आका पर कुर्बान हो गए, जब अली अकबर नहीं रहे तो ओनो मोहम्मद का क्या तस्कर। शहजादी ने कहा अब्दुल्ला फिर तुमको क्या पूछना चाहते? अब्दुल्ला ने कहा शहजादी सिफीन की जंग में जब अलम इस्लाम मेरे पास था और मैं मुसलसल हमले पर हमले किया कर रहा था, तो मेरे चचा अली कहते थे तुम और मुस्लिम बिन अकील खूब हमले करते रहो, लेकिन मेरे हुसैन से बढ़कर कोई बहादुर नहीं। शहजादी मैं अमीरुल मोमिनीन की आवाज को सुन चुका हूं कि हुसैन से बढ़कर कोई बहादुर नहीं। शहजादी से इतना बताओ कि करबला में मेरा भाई लड़ा किस तरह। बस इतना सुनना था कि शहजादी की आंखों में एक रोशनी सी आ गई। अब्दुल्ला तुमने कितना अच्छा सवाल किया। हाँ अब्दुल्ला मेरा भाई ने जंग की, और वो जंग की कि दुनिया में यादगार रहेगी। मगर अब्दुल्ला ये लड़ाई उस वक्त नहीं हुई जब अब्बास थे, ये जंग उस वक्त नहीं हुई जब अब्बास जिंदा थे, वो लड़ाई उस वक्त नहीं हुई जब अली अकबर जिंदा थे, ये लड़ाई उस वक्त भी नहीं हुई जब ओनो मोहम्मद जिंदा थे। अब्दुल्ला ये लड़ाई उस वक्त हुई जब मेरा भाई अकेला था और मैं खेमे का पर्दा उठाकर भाई की लड़ाई को देख।
ये खत में शाह ने लिखा हबीब आ जाओ, ये खत में शाह ने लिखा हबीब आ जाओ, तुम्हारा दोस्त है तन्हा, तुम्हारा दोस्त है तन्हा, हबीब आ जाओ, ये खत में शाह ने लिखा हबीब आ जाओ। शहीद कैसे हुआ वो बताओगे आकर, तुम्हारे मुस्लिम बेकस सुनाओगे आकर, रुकैया तकती है रास्ता, रुकैया तकती है रास्ता, हबीब आ जाओ। ये खत में शाह ने लिखा, हबीब आ जाओ। लगाओ इससे भी अंदाज़े मेरी गुर्बत के, जहां पे इब्ने अली लिखना था वहां मैंने दिया है माँ का हवाला, दिया है माँ का हवाला, हबीब आ जाओ। ये खत में शाह ने लिखा, हबीब आ जाओ। बता रहा था उसे कोई भी नहीं है मेरा, तो बोली सानी ज़हरा, हबीब आएगा। है उसको तुम पर भरोसा, है उसको तुम पर भरोसा, हबीब आ जाओ। ये खत में शाह ने लिखा, हबीब आ जाओ। वो जब ये सुनती है कूफे से आ रहे हैं शकी, तो पूछती है हमारा भी आएगा कोई, दुआएं देगी सकीना, दुआएं देगी सकीना, हबीब आ जाओ। ये खत में शाह ने लिखा, हबीब आ जाओ। दरे बतूल दोबारा जलाया जाएगा, तुम्हारे दोस्त पर खंजर चलाया जाएगा। नहीं है वक्त ज्यादा, नहीं है वक्त ज्यादा, हबीब आ जाओ। ये खत में शाह ने लिखा, हबीब आ जाओ। चमकते चांद की हमको भी दीद हो जाए, तुम आओ तो मेरे बच्चों में ईद हो जाए। बहुत उदास है कुनबा, बहुत उदास है कुनबा, हबीब आ जाओ। ये खत में शाह ने लिखा, हबीब आ जाओ। ये खत नहीं इसे बहनों की आरज़ू समझो, हमारे लफ्जों को ज़ैनब की गुफ्तगू समझो। बहन ये कहती है भैया, बहन ये कहती है भैया, हबीब आ जाओ। ये खत में शाह ने लिखा, हबीब आ जाओ। बहन ने उसको तकल्लुम जो भाई समझा था, पुकारी शाम गरीबा में सानिए जहरा, हमारा लुटता है पर्दा, हमारा लुटता है पर्दा, हबीब आ जाओ, ये खत में शाह ने लिखा, हबीब आ जाओ, हबीब आ जाओ।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I will be reciting this dua that I've written with the help of Imam Zainul Abidin's Psalms of Islam. And these are excerpts from his prayer for parents, because she is my mother-in-law's Parasiti Quran. And at the end of this, I would like you all to join in reciting a Fatiha. O Allah, bless Muhammad, your slave and your messenger, and his Ahl and Bayt, the pure, and single them out the best of your blessings, your mercy, your benedictions, and your peace. Single out our parents, O Allah, for honor with you, and blessings from you, O most merciful of the merciful. O Allah, we thank them for our upbringing, and please reward them for honoring us and guard them as they guarded us in our infancy. O Allah, I beseech thee not to place us amongst those who disrespected their parents. And I beg you, on the day of judgment, when every soul will be paid for what it has earned, they shall not be wronged. Let them be showered with your generosity, your forgiveness and mercy. Verily, you are the possessor of abounding bounty and kindness. You are the most merciful of the merciful. Amen. Reciting unison.
Fatiha and Quran.
Say to Allah. Zaytun Tafan and allows it.
Fatiha in honor of the second Napa and all those who are related to us but are with us no more. أعوذ بالله السميع من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد
Allah.
لم
يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا ما تغفر. Okay, now, now, Subhana Rabbika Rabbil Izzati Amma Yasifun, wa salamun ala al-mursalin, walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. तवज्जो से